The Bolians are maintaining an uneasy truce with the Meropa. Miserians value peace above confrontation. And Captain Picard visited Chalna 12 years ago while commanding the Stargazer. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Seventh Rule with Sirach Lofton.
Hello, hello.
My name is Ryan T. Husk, and today we're doing a review of Star Trek The Next Generation, Season 3, Episode 18, Allegiance, written by Richard Manning and Hans Beimler, directed by Weinrich Colby. This was March 24th, 1990. Where were you? I know where our very special guest was. He was right there making all the makeup and awesome aliens and being recognized by his peers for it. Everybody, we have a very special guest today. It's Mr. Michael Westmore. How are you, Michael?
I'm good. How's everybody there?
So good.
The legend himself.
So great to have you. We've got all
Yes.
kinds of aliens. Let's just get into it. First things first. Michael, when you read this script, did it have specific aliens with which to work? Or did they just say, and Michael's department works some magic and we'll figure it out later?
It's the second one. I never actually, in my 18 years there, the scripts never described what the alien was going to look like. It would just say alien, and it was up to me to figure it out.
Really?
That's I had a lot of questions about this because this is a heavy makeup episode. There's a lot of aliens in this episode. We've seen a lot of Klingons, but I assume it's easier to do makeup if you have if they're all Klingons and you have 20 Klingons as opposed to 5 different styles of aliens. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, sure. It's when you're cookie cutting, doing multitudes like the Jemadar and then the Cardassians and things, because so many times one piece fits all. And so you only have to make a few to maybe adjust to somebody else. But in this instance, everybody in this one was never repeated. It was all, there was a number of shows where we come up with those. But the moles I always saved in case for some reason they bring them back.
Mm-hmm. Michael, it's a little known fact that Bolians are possibly my favorite Star Trek alien. I'm not quite sure why. We don't see them terribly often, but we do sometimes with Captain Ricks, with this lady here. Also, we see Mr. Mott later on, the barber, maybe one or two others. I think there was a Bolian on Deep Space Nine who was like at the helm of the Defiant or something like that.
We would pop them in, and many times when we had groups of them that they called, and they'd say, give us 3 Westmore aliens, which meant dig out of the box and find whatever. And if we had somebody that we had the time to put a bald cap on or whatever, you'd find a Bolian in the background too.
Mm-hmm. And this particular Bolian, I do believe this is one of the very first episodes of Star Trek I'd ever seen in my life. One of the first few, because I remember getting kind of fascinated by these aliens. This particular Bolian is the only one I've ever seen with hair. Was there any kind of discussion about that? Did it just kind of happen,
There's actually no discussing it. Well, I mean, as far as, going to the producer and saying what I wanted to do. This was almost like an ND alien, and it wasn't intentionally made to be a Bolian, because all the Bolians are bald and have watermelon stripes across the top of their head, and they're a much richer blue. Why this one was basically, I want to say, almost like a made-up one out of a box, like grabbing facial slits out of the Bolian box. And really, we hadn't done that many, so I never knew if they're ever going to return or not. And the hairdresser, I kind of give this one a disguise, put a wig on this person, and we glued down the center part of her hair and stuck another little piece in there. But had it been really a true Bolian, there would have been watermelon stripes across the top So, um, I thought, well, maybe this is a cousin from a far distant planet, and they're not Bolians. They're, Mr. Mott backwards. They're Toms or something. So, anyways, it's if you want to think it's a Bolian, you can. But it was not on purpose.
Did you keep all of those Bolian parts in the Bolian alley?
Oh gosh.
Sorry. Okay.
Ooh, it took me a minute to catch on, but I got it. Yeah, it's very good.
Oh yeah. I wanted to ask you because I'm also curious about the Bolian because my eyes couldn't really get off of it. And one of the things I was thinking about was also the hair application on top of the makeup. And so I was wondering, is that the bald cap's put on, you put the prosthetic and then add hair on top of that?
No, this was probably a wig. I think Josie or Joy was the hairstylist then, and we just took a wig and glued down the hair on both sides, and then put the appliance in there, and made it up. But also, as far as and I said, color wise, the all the Bolians, the bald Bolians you see throughout it, including the females along the way. Were all a much brighter blue.
Yeah.
Not to talk too much about the Bolian and the Bolian hair, but I noticed, maybe because this is more HD than I remember when I first saw it, but I thought whoever did the hair on the Bolian did a really good job of blending the blue into like highlights, because that seems like a really difficult thing to do, is to, I'm assuming, spray blue on there and not make it look splotchy or all one color, but more just kind of like bluish highlights. Can you tell us a bit about that?
And this was pre of the makeup artist using airbrush. So this was all done by hand.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. I know I got more Bolian, but more Bolian. So the split that's caused in the middle of the face, can you just give me an idea of how that's done? That's a prosthetic that's going down the middle of their face.
It's a prosthetic that literally has a split down the center.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in this particular case, I could see it underneath the wig, which made it look made my eye gravitate towards that split underneath the wig. But so this is the actor's face with just the prosthetic down the middle, right?
Right. The pieces are about an inch wide.
Okay.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, and then of course on the real Bolians, the piece that went from the I would say the bridge of the nose all the way across the top of the head on top of the bald cap, that piece was about 14 inches.
Okay. No, go ahead.
Okay.
I have other alien questions.
Me too. Exactly.
Okay.
The Chalna, I think this is the only time we see that alien. I'm not 100% certain, but I think it is.
You're 100% right.
Oh, really? It is the only time with those 4 teeth. He kind of reminds me of an alien I really liked in Gambit parts 1 and 2 named Baran. He kind of had like a lion look in the 7th season, but this is definitely their own alien, the Chalna, and his name was Esok. So this was the only time we've ever seen this. Did you use what were the pieces? Were they pieces from other aliens?
No, these were all took a cast of his face and sculpted the pieces you have here, and then I made his teeth for him. So it was a fresh set of teeth, and there's 4 of them like fangs that go up from his lower teeth. And this is a German actor, and he really did well. And the colored contact lenses when you come in close up and everything. Again, none of these. This was, I think, one of those scripts where we didn't have a lot of time, so we're going quick, and it was like this whole makeup would have been applied, makeup and hair, in probably about 3 hours or less. And it just, I mean, he loved getting into the makeup, so it wasn't like you're dealing with a drama queen or anything. And he loved getting into the makeup because he became the character. It was a fun one. And of course, when you do a makeup like this, and it was a number of times during the filming over the 18 years that I was always hoping they would bring something back, because I did save every mold from every alien, which
wow,
we finally dumped everything. No, we didn't dump everything. Some of it was sent to Germany, but it was fun putting makeups together like this.
So, like Ryan, I actually was reminded of an alien as well from the Chalna. But I thought of are they called Tellarites, Ryan?
the
Jenkinpog?
The Tellarites,
the pig ones, yeah.
Yes,
yeah.
they were. I based them on the original ones from the original series, but tried to make them so the actors could at least see. Those were just kind of like rubber masks that they chopped up to do that with, and the actors couldn't see well. So you notice they're always looking up, trying to see somebody. It's because they couldn't see, through those eyes. But yeah, my Tellarites are based, as I said, based on the original series, but kind of like just brought up to modern day so they could really use their hands, and because their thumb was a part of a hoof, and so they could use their hands. They could eat lunch, and they didn't do things. So
again,
yeah.
A final comment on that Chalna alien Esok was the first thing I noticed when he first pops up is there's kind of a close up, and you can see his teeth, and you can see them coming out, and you can actually see under his lip, and it looked meaty. It didn't look like a piece of plastic in there. It looked like there was. I'm like, how did they? Like, how did?
What I had to do was paint him, and you'd notice had I just left the pink, the teeth are actually set. They're made out of acrylic, and his gums, from a cast of his own teeth, I made the gums that the teeth would fit in. And in doing that, going back a little bit, the man that taught me to make teeth was John Chambers, the man that won the Oscar for Planet of the Apes. I was his first apprentice, and he was a dental technician before he became a makeup artist. And this is one of the things I learned as an apprentice back in the 60s. And so when you're painting the gums, you just don't leave them pink. It's like you go in between the teeth and you put a little red, and you can take a little bit of the thinner on it and smear it around a little bit. And then when it's all done, there's a clear acrylic that you paint over the whole thing. And when the saliva gets going in the mouth and everything, they look real.
It absolutely worked for me.
Every Klingon. I did this with every pair of Klingon teeth, which I can't even begin to tell you how many I made of those. But everything. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I was impressed by that. I do my drawings, as you know, and this was my Tellarite / chain for this Chalna drawing right here. And then there's my other. This is the last alien, which I had questions about here, and that was the was it the Miserian?
Yeah,
it was Miserians.
Yeah.
Oh, so this question was about the integration of the costume and the makeup, Michael. That particular alien is wearing this hooded kind of headdress,
right?
And I was wondering if that was done to hide anything, or was it designed that way initially?
No, yeah, we could have put a bald cap on him or anything. I think that's what Bob Blackman was the costumer then, and Bob and I worked very close. I mean, he would tell me when he was going to do something, that if a Ferengi female was going to have a low cut dress or something, which meant painting her orange further down. But in this instance, he was wanted for some part of the character or something. This is what he designed as the costume for it. So if he comes and he tells me that, I don't have to, cover his ears or put his head probably came up, I think it did, high enough that it covered his hairline. So we were dealing with just a face in there. And of course, then the wardrobe kind of takes and puts two-way tape along the inside of the costume, and then they'll stick it right to the face. So that's, I more or less recollect that this is, what we did.
Yeah, and I really like that particular headdress and that design because from the profile, it actually has a ridged kind of design to it. It reminded me of the Sydney Opera House.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I thought,
Totally.
how creative is that for like a hoodie.
Yeah, and again, this is a character that never came back.
Yeah,
And
that's a bummer.
this was like this is one of those like uh you just decide like, hey, this will be more of a reptile because I instantly felt like, oh, this is a reptilian type of alien.
It could be. I think the whole main thing is all the ridges that just came down the face, and just not little stripes, but larger kind of ripples.
Yeah. And the color was another question I had because the color of the skin was very close to the hood, to the
Yes.
clothing. And
Yeah.
I was wondering if that was just a coincidence or that just, something you guys worked out together. Like,
very possibly it could be a coincidence where I decided in balancing the colors out, and it was, he could have been painted yellow with, red stripes or something, but this was just more subtle. And the character itself was just a very kind of subtle character. But I don't remember if Bob and I ever talked about, like giving me a sample of the hood or not. I think we just did that, and that happened to be what he had in mind.
Wow.
Because I didn't care, what color costume he put on him. That's the color of the face I was going to go with. But it worked out really well. Accidents happen, or even for the best.
Speaking of which, a happy accident was today. I was at a function, as you know, and who I ran into was actually one of these guys. Literally today,
The two brothers,
Jeff
the
Rector.
Yeah, right.
This looks like Jeff Rector, so this must be Jerry
twins.
Rector. And it's so funny because I saw him. I was like, dude, I've literally just watched your episode and we're going to be talking about it with Michael Westmore later today. I did not realize they were brothers until the, kind of the opening scenes. It shows Jeff Rector and Jerry Rector in the credits. What can you tell us about this? This was a nameless alien race, if I remember correctly, right?
You're right.
I don't think they gave him a name.
And luckily enough, they both had about the same size heads. So I only had to literally make two rubber heads, and it's one size fits all, at least in their family. And I have run into both the guys over the years, and it's like they always come up to me if we see each other. And
really,
yeah. But it's like being twins and doing this. It was, it was very interesting. But,
yeah, I mean, this is a full head makeup. Yes. This seems like it's even more work.
I had a little bit of time. They cast them, I think, before everybody else. And so I was able to make a full plaster head cast of one of them, which I don't remember, and then sculpt it on that one head. And then you make the big mold, and it takes time to make the rubber on this. It would take a couple of bowls of big rubber to fill it, and then it would have to bake in the oven for, I don't know, normally everything was about 3 hours. This may have taken about 4 hours because there was a lot of rubber in the top of the head and around the back of the head. But the two guys had fun with it, so it was, and they're so nice too, willing to do anything. And I made larger nostrils on there because when I finally was doing the clay sculpting, it just seemed like the character called for bigger sculptures. But I don't remember what the inspiration was for this, because I look at
Yeah,
it.
that was my question.
Like,
What did you get from that? Yeah,
maybe
where
it's
is that?
maybe it's a bug. It's
Yeah, I was trying to figure out what is the inspiration of it too. I mean, are without me, in very respectable way as possible, are these guys big-headed brothers, or is
no,
the head that I'm seeing
no, they're very short.
exaggerated?
No, they're just for their height, which isn't, I don't know, maybe 5'8", 5'9", or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a normal
Yeah.
size head. So the whole idea was not to stay with a normal size head, to do to more or less, I want to say, start to spread it out. It's like
Yeah.
you're doing a mushroom, so it's I kept looking at it. I think as I was doing it, it's like I started putting clay on, and I wanted to get it bigger and bigger. And it's like, okay, the cheekbones around here, the frontal bones on the forehead. What are we going to do across here? I just didn't want to make a big, round, bald head. So it's more or less, I don't know if I can even find an animal or a species of anything on Earth that looks
Yeah.
like this. So I'm saying a bug. There's probably a bug somewhere that has these features.
Yeah, like almost like a beetle kind of head,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
maybe a little bit of
If
a
you
shape
if
of
you
like the
put antenna
predator
on
kind of.
it,
Yeah. Yeah, interesting.
Which if they
So,
came back, maybe I'd do that.
by the
There's
way, you
my
were
big head
nominated.
guy.
You were nominated for an Emmy for this episode, right? Oh, hold that up, Sirach.
Oh yeah,
Really?
there's my big head
There it is.
Yeah, yeah,
drawing guy.
yeah.
So
Well, that was
not.
it. It was the idea was to take it away from a human shape.
Mhm.
I felt it. I felt it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like
But
I was
you've been
saying,
nominated a million times, so right? I mean,
right.
Ryan is that? I mean, Mr.
No, only
Westmore has been
42, not a million,
only
only 42.
only 42 times.
And counting. But I mean, this is definitely one of those episodes that
Yeah.
stands out because not only is it a multitude of aliens, but it's different aliens, and many of them we're seeing for the first time. In fact, all of them we're seeing for the first time, except the Bolian, but this is the first time we're seeing a Bolian like this. So it's really a bunch of new and different alien races that are all acting differently, that look very different, different sizes, different colors and shapes, big hair, the Sydney opera house thing, head piece.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's why you were so decorated, for your many episodes, but especially this one is just because
The
of,
variety.
yeah, it's just so many different kinds, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's variety. Also, I think the best makeup was the other Picard because he looked just like the real Picard.
That was
It was
also Jeff
unbelievable.
Rector.
Yeah.
Great makeup.
There was I forgot which movie was it where I had the English actor who was Picard as a young man, and I made a nose because his nose was nothing like Patrick's, and teeth. I did upper and lower casts of Patrick's teeth, and
Oh,
then made Patrick literally a set of Patrick's teeth for him to fit in while he was in character.
that's unbelievable. I did not know that.
Yeah.
That was it in Rascals?
No, it was a feature.
Oh, okay, so it was Generations, maybe.
I think it was after Generation.
You mean Tom Hardy
Tom
in
Hardy.
Nemesis?
Yes.
Got it. Who played his
Tom
clone?
Hardy.
Yes. Yeah.
He had to have a similar look to Patrick because he also, shaved his head and put. So this was just an addition because Patrick's nose was so different. And I've been used to doing. I used to make noses for Michael Jackson so he could get out of the house without the paparazzi.
Really?
Wow, that's a throwaway gem right there.
Yeah, I know. Like we should have started with that.
That
was
deserves
you.
a follow-up question. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was you. That's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, among the other things that you've done in your life, I mean, it doesn't surprise me, obviously, but it does kind of surprise me. But I did want to ask you. You mentioned destroying a lot of the molds that you had over the years,
Yeah.
and then you said some of them went to Germany.
Yeah.
What did you mean by that? Like, is there a museum there, or?
Well, some of the, I mean, a lot of the molds were old or something. We got rid of those. There was a man that actually paid Paramount for the molds, and he had a giant car. He was going to open a Star Trek museum and maybe start making these molds again, recreating them. And it's never happened. But that he came and he picked all these up. 20 years, 2005 or 6 is when we closed up the mold room.
Let's
And
find that guy.
so they're just sitting there.
Right.
in
Right.
Germany, but nothing's ever been done with them
Wow.
that I know.
Well, Michael, we're just about out of time here, but we do want to tell you how unbelievable it is every time you join our show. We're so thrilled and honored every time you come in here and you tell us stories about, oh, by the way, I used to work for Michael Jackson. No big deal. But anyway, about this, you just got to throw it out there. You're a living legend. And I just want to say thank you so much for hanging out with us. We really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
You.
I enjoyed it all the time. So you come up with good questions.
Well, you give us so many gems that we can chew on, and the work speaks for itself. It's so, even after all of these years, it's still impressive when you see it. It's still emotionally impactful when it's on screen. There are feelings that I get attached to the different alien faces. For example, the hoodie guy, I just didn't trust him. It's just something, just off sight, without even him saying anything. So there's the emotional attachment is there. So I guess when you read these characters, you're able to take whatever emotions that are prescribed to them in the script and really bring that to life with the makeup, because with the teeth and everything, I felt violence. I felt intimidated. I felt a sense of fear and urgency when he arrived. So kudos to you for taking the words on a paper and bringing to life those characters that evoke those kinds of emotional reactions.
Yeah, well, it's with the characters too. I mean, once they get in these rubber faces, they have to bring them alive, bring them to life. And I learned this many years ago when I was doing a television series called Eleanor and Franklin, and Jane Alexander was doing a makeup and hair test, and she's just standing there and she's not moving, and I could see everybody kind of getting nervous about the makeup. So I went up and I whispered in her ear, open your mouth, talk, move around, put your hand up to your face, rub your nose. Just this thing isn't going to fall off. So she did all this, and everybody goes, oh. So every Star Trek alien and character that we had in makeup, I gave them the mirror test so they could see, that this is really, you're an alien. You're not a person wearing a mask.
So good. That's why we've seen images of Quark doing this with his nose and all that kind of stuff. That it shows there are people that were able to kind of mess around with it, not worry about it. It's not going to fall off. It's not going to wrinkle. It's they're going swimming in it, wrestling.
It's part of your face now. Yeah. So and then with the contacts and everything, I mean, just the total look and the package is there. It just the touches are all there.
But that's what I always looked for. It wasn't just putting a face on them. They could have freckles. They could have a scar. Klingons had scars. Just to bring other things to life.
To life. Yeah, you mentioned the Bolian watermelon stripes, and we see it. The freckles that you put in certain places. It makes the skin look alive.
Gives it texture.
Texture, absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
My
Mr.
pleasure.
Westmore.
You guys.
Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.
Just the best.
My pleasure.
Everybody stick around. We will have much more coverage. We'll be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the seventh rule with Sirach, the final boss, Lofton.
Hello.
All right, here are the trivioids of the week. Man, I feel so fortunate that Michael Westmore comes and tells us his stories and is so gracious.
Yeah, what a blessing. To be able to just pick his brain on stuff. And I mean, I can barely remember what I did yesterday.
I know. That's the thing, is he remembers he'll be like, and this guy was here 2 days and we did. I'm like, how unbelievable.
He's like, they're 5'8", I think 5'8". I'm like, how you got the height down, exactly.
Genius.
This guy, he's the one you want testifying in a lineup. He's the guy I would trust his memory.
Love that, man. So here are the trivioids. The Enterprise crew has finally succeeded in eradicating the Fyrox plague on Korali 5. I think that's what it was. The Enterprise is set to rendezvous with the USS Hood. That's an interesting one. To assist in their terraforming efforts on Browder 4. Cadet Mitena Haro studied Captain Picard's mission at Starfleet Academy, or did she? Picard takes a bite out of something edible that looks kind of like soap. The nearest pulsar is in the Lanka cluster. Captain Picard is tapping out the first 6 prime numbers. The Bolians are maintaining an uneasy truce with the Meropa. In the last 300 years of Mazarian history, their planet has been conquered 6 times. The Mazarians value peace above confrontation. Captain Picard visited Chalna 12 years ago while commanding the Stargazer, and the Enterprise's engine efficiency is at 93%, but that's not good enough, damn it. USS Hood, I believe, and everybody in the comments below, correct me if I'm wrong, and I think we'll find this out in a future episode of Next Generation, maybe season 5 or 6 or 7. The USS Hood is where Riker used to be a commander or lieutenant. But he came from the USS Hood, and his captain, I believe, was Captain DeSoto. I think Riker was a lieutenant or lieutenant commander under Captain DeSoto before he transferred over to the Enterprise to become first officer and commander. Anyway, that's what I think. I think I remember that when I read that years ago. So, Sirach,
all I read was that.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, I just read that a lot of the black Starfleet officers came from the Hood. I had to throw that in. It was the Hood. I got to get me a USS Hood hoodie.
Right. Were those the big head brothers you were asking about earlier?
No, those are different set.
Were those some big-headed brothers? And I was like, what? You're like,
I said giant heads, man. It was crazy. Oh yeah, the USS Hood. As soon as I heard that, I was like, "That's where I need a USS Hood hat or something." That's pretty cool.
That would be cool. Yeah, straight from the Hood, man. That's where you transfer from.
Exactly.
So, what'd you think of this episode? Because I remember this one. Again, it was one of the first ones I'd ever seen, and I remember liking it. I remember just liking the different aliens. I remember liking the crew, kind of sussing out that fake Picard was looking like he was just trying to test them and keep them busy, keep them, just like he was just messing with them. I didn't remember Beverly sitting down next to him being like, "Hey," at the end there. That was kind of funny. But I don't know. What did you think? Did you enjoy it?
I was curious to find out what the hell was going on in the beginning. So that my curiosity was about, I would say, halfway through the episode. I was like, well, what's this about? What's going on? It waned a little bit when I didn't see enough there to kind of quench the thirst of my curiosity. It was very on the surface what it was appearing to be, but I didn't understand the purpose of this other captain, what that person was probing for, or the distraction wasn't. I don't even know if it was necessary. The whole flirtation with Crusher. I was like, I wrote down in my notes. I said, this is when Jack Crusher was. I think this version of Picard might be Jack Crusher's father. Uh, for all we know, because it looks like he got closer. He got
somewhere.
closer. He got closer to Beverly than he has so far, except for that little cave scene that they had.
It was weird. She said, "I like our relationship just the way it is." He's like, "Do you want to dance?" And she's like, "All right, let's be more than friends." She's like, "Well,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're gonna dance, then what am I supposed to do?" Of course.
Yeah, it was. I don't know, that was a little bit strange to me, and the fact that nobody picked up on it was that was what was bothering me the most, because I was like, Troy, you got one job. You got one job on this show, and that is to to feel out what people are thinking and feeling, and to tell us, to be like the lie detector test. And she couldn't sniff the lie out in this particular episode, which kind of bothered me, because he was able to, you know, tell her, "Hey, let me know if anybody's acting strange." She should have instantly picked up on that for me in the beginning. Like, what do you mean? You never told me that before. Like, do you have a reason to suspect that people would be acting strange? Like a little follow up. Like, there wasn't enough pushback for me. Everybody was just accepting him acting a little bit strange. Like, he invites her to dinner. He's wearing a robe.
I know. I was like, I was just looking at this 1990s fashion. Like, he kind of, I'll be honest though, he kind of looked sexy, man. I was like, he looked like sultry, like
it
he was
looked
ready
sexy,
to
but it looked Hugh Hefner sexy though.
like I blushed when he looked at the camera. I went, and then Beverly had her 1990, like ruffled shoulder thing going on. I was like, what is going on here? And why is it so hot?
Yeah, I get it was hot. I thought he was gonna disrobe for a second and say, "Do you want to dance?" It was almost
Horizontally.
And then like nobody picks up on it. Like he sets course for somewhere where they're not headed for. They have a rendezvous with the Hood. They're not going to meet with them. They're going to go to some distant somewhere else for some non-explained reason. And nobody even just like, "Hey, why are we going over there, Captain?" Well, Starfleet said we got to meet with the Hood. I mean, there was no pushback, and not enough for me. And so the people not pushing back, very blatant. Like, I would expect the Dr. Crusher of all people, because he played to her wantingness to have a relationship, right? There's this underlying, curiosity between the two of them, and that's what this pretend Picard played to. He also played to other things, which I thought were good signs of his character, like when he would say, "Hey, good job, guys," and "Hey, let's have a drink and a toast to this." I was like, "Hey, he does need to do a little bit more of that."
Let's keep fake Picard. We like fake Picard better. He's kind of messing with the crew, but then he compliments them and says they're doing it. He keeps things lively, keeps them guessing,
Yes.
Fake
yes.
Picard. They're like, fake Picard, clinging drinks. They're like, we love you, fake Picard.
Yes,
I will
that's
say,
what
though,
I felt.
when you were talking about, getting the, with Beverly, and how she's a doctor, I just realized that's a really strange way to ask her out. Because if he's getting a full physical exam at his age, that's going to include some things that she's going to have to do to him to give him a full physical. And then for him to just turn back around and be like, so anyway,
Yeah.
And she's like, why did you come get a physical if you feel fine? Like he's like coming in for a routine physical ahead of time.
Yes.
And then she's performing the physical, and he's like, so anyway, how about dinner at my place? That I just realized it feels very peculiar.
And nobody picked up on it. That Worf, I thought, was about to pick up on it. There was a moment where he kind of does this, like, look on his inquisitive kind of eyebrow kind of scruff, like, but he doesn't follow up. Riker kind of but doesn't follow up, and it's like, you guys know this guy. You hang out with him all the time. Either he's doing some drugs, something like that. He's
Quaaludes.
got to be. He's on something, man. You got to figure it out because he's not acting right.
You know,
The whole singing scene, the whole dancing, those are
that
all things
was
that we don't see him do.
egregious. Yeah, that was the most obvious thing where they're like, okay, we love fake Picard, but it's obviously a fake Picard. But yeah, I think maybe Worf didn't say something because if you'll notice, Worf is always wrong in these episodes. Every time Worf says something, Picard's like, no, or Mr. Worf, will you stand down? You know, and stuff like that. So this time he's like, gonna say something. He's like, I better not. They're just always gonna yell at me. And he would have been right finally.
He would have been right. It would have been perfect for him to actually get shot down just so he could say, I told you so.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, those were some of the things that, I mean, the makeup was so amazing. That was just really like, it was just phenomenal. So I did think, I swear I thought it was a Tellarite. I was totally off on that. But yeah, the makeup was great. I don't know. It was just, there was just moments for me that just didn't, that they should have picked up earlier. And Troy, like, Troy doesn't have a sense for that.
I know. That was me too. I was like, well, she can't say there's something different about this Picard. Or couldn't Riker ask Troy, hey, we're literally talking about potential mutiny. Before we take this any further, hey, Deanna Troi, are you sensing anything? What's going on? What, you know, like that's the biggest deciding factor is what does the psychic lady say? What's up? And she's like, well, if nobody's going to ask me, I'm not going to tell you. So
yeah,
whatever. Good luck guessing.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That bothered me. The other thing bothered me was they were like, he says, oh, recalibrate a new flight path. That we're going to that star over there.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, okay, sure. How fast we should go? He's like, warp 0.003. Like it'll take us 6 weeks to get there. And everybody's like, cool, let's play cards then. Like they're like, hey, well, we can use the extra time to do nothing.
What speed? Warp, take our sweet ass time. Speed 0.1. Engage.
Yes. Yes. That to me were like, those were the big obvious tells for me that I felt there should have been somebody should have been saying, hey, I don't think, like, you know, at least been asking around if Dr. Crusher, am I crazy? Or even if Troy's like, I'm telling you guys, I don't think this is Picard. And they're like, get out of here. What are you talking about? Deanna, you need to relax. Play some cards. What do you got, a flush?
I do have to flush, she says. Anyway, let's we're just about out of time here, but let's talk about some people that would have never laughed at that dumb flush joke, but we love them to death. Their names are, oh, so sorry. What about the home run of the day? Let's not forget the home run of the day.
Home run of the day is going to go to Michael Westmore. It was the makeup that was the home run in this episode. You know, the story was okay. It was a little slow in certain parts, but for sure the makeup was just home run material.
Yeah, totally agree. Except I loved this episode. Maybe it's just because it's one of the first ones I've seen, or the cool aliens. I actually loved this episode. Not the best, but it's a very enjoyable episode for me. Definitely Michael Westmore hits the home run. All these aliens are new. They're different. They're fun. They're interesting, and they're beautiful, and they hold up on HD. You know, once you lean in forward on HD, like a lot of things don't always hold up, but these definitely do. And his work on these episodes is amazing. Speaking of amazing, here they are. Homer Frizzell, Dr. Anne-Marie Siegel, Eve England out in Wales, Yvette Blackman, Tom TJ Jackson Bay out in Missouri, Titus Bowler, Dr. Mohammed Noor, Tierney C. Diekman, Anil O. Palat, Joe Balsarati, Mike Gu, Dr. Stephanie Baker, Carrie Schwent, Faith Howell, Edward Foltz, Mai live from Tokyo, the Matt Boardman, Chris McGee, Justin Weir, Jake Barrett, Henry Unger, Allison Leach Hyde, Julie Manisfee, Greg K. Wickstrom, Jed Thompson, Dr. Susan V. Gruner, Glenn Iverson, Dave Gregory, Tim Baum, Chris Sternett, Christopher D. Marshall, Joanna Junker, Roy Epen, and of course, Jason Oken. Everybody stick around. We've got the free-for-all up next, and we will be right back on The Seventh Rule. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to The Seventh Rule with Sirach. Well, Sirach's going to hop back on in a second, everybody. Probably. Look who else is here, though. It's Melissa Longo.
Hi. I brought friends.
Oh, we were just talking about friends. Jason M. Oken is also here with a cool background, as always. Faith Howell, what's up? Allison Leach High, looks like she's got her cool Uhura shirt from Melissa's store. The Introverted Republic, you can get it there. Chris McGee's got a cool Seventh Rule. It's kind of a play on Appetite for Destruction. You can get that shirt at our Teespring store. Mai is live in Tokyo with Data and forgot her name. Helena, something like the Bolian. Dr. Muhammad Noor is in a sea of blue. And Carrie Schwent is showing off yellow today. All right, everybody. Everybody guesses the IMDb score.
7-9?
6-2.
I was going to get 7-7. Kyle says it's a 10.
I'll say 6-9. 6-9 for me.
Jason said 6-2. It's
I said 5.
Yeah, I said 5. There's no. There's no way.
It's a 7.4. Everybody.
Wow.
Holy
7.4. It's an excellent episode. Do we have any NAMs?
So.
What about the some kind of or some sort of? So I got one. I know Chris did.
Let's have it.
Chris, what do you got?
When Fall was describing that punishing beam, he described it as some sort of energy beam.
Excellent. Man, he really did say that.
Wowie zowie.
All right. Well, let's get started off on the right track, please. Melissa Longo, what'd you think of this amazing episode starring Jeff and Jerry Rector behind you?
This episode, it wasn't as amazing as the past 3 episodes that we've just watched. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't, I don't know, the last 3 episodes have just been so phenomenal. And I feel bad for this episode because 1, it was the first time I had seen it, and 2, it just, although I do have to say that I do enjoy episodes where we get the crew, the day-to-day life of the crew, and I do enjoy seeing how they interact with each other, especially in a crisis. Like your captain is missing and they come together and are so good at their job that they know that they can trust each other, and then trust that they know their captain well enough to know when he is not acting in the way that he usually does. So the chain of command is very well put well in place, and they were really reluctant to, mutiny, but it was for the good of the ship, which is wonderful to know that that is what everyone's goal is in mind. It is the good of the ship and the success of the ship and the life of the ship as a whole. So that was pretty good. I love it when we get to see a number of alien species. There are so many in this episode, like these lovely dudes, like the dudes behind Ryan and Jason, and and Faith and everyone. But so yeah, I have to say that my favorite line was Picard's at the end when he said, "Get off my ship." That was so fun. And I really did like the scene between Beverly and fake Picard. Because they have chemistry, so I like to see their little flirtings. But yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say about this.
Seems like there's more, but okay, maybe you'll save it for later, because the way you said, that's all I have to say about that, kind of meant like you got more to say about it.
Sure. I sure do.
Jason M. Oken has more to say about everything, and he's going to teach us something. What do you think of this one?
I always do. I mean, I did say 6.2. I personally think it's not 6.2, but I don't think it's 7.4 either. I mean, I think, as Melissa said, it does have the misfortune of being sort of sandwiched among some pretty good episodes. So, it suffers by comparison. Mm-hmm. I think it's one of the sort of quieter shows, if you will. It's something that has a sort of a science fiction concept associated with it. Not the freshest one of all. It kind of reminded me of what The Savage Curtain did in the original series in a different way. But for me, this episode holds together primarily by Rick Colby's direction and Patrick Stewart's acting. I think to some degree it's a masterclass in how you act little nuances where you're slightly off. And you can see you're slightly off, but still good enough to pass for it. And I think, in terms of, Rick Colby's work, it was just a little creepy and a little unusual. I mean, the way that cell was, first of all, lit and shot, I think we haven't seen, we will not see as many lens flares until J.J. Abrams' 2009. You don't, certainly not, that's not something you see on the Next Gen or any of the other series of the time. But, for me, frankly, the biggest flaw of the episode is these aliens imitate also well what they don't seem to understand. And that is something that I think kind of plagues this episode quite a bit. There's a lot of repetitiveness. So it kind of there's not enough story, I think, to sustain 44 minutes or 45 minutes of screen time. It certainly is entertaining. And again, I think the way it looks and the way Patrick performs makes you actually want to watch this. That's it for the time being, and I'll save the rest for later.
Just to make sure I understand what you're saying that the aliens were able to mimic, or fake Picard was able to mimic real Picard when they don't understand Picard and others, right?
It's that, and also they had the Bolian basically saying in the cell that, keeping somebody confined is mistreatment, and all of a sudden they don't understand that keeping somebody confined is mistreatment. Things like that.
That's a very good point. Jason, poking holes, Oken. All right, thank you very much for that. Chris McGee, what do you got for us today?
Well, you know how Jason sometimes mentions meat and potatoes episodes of TNG. Well, for me, this is definitely one of them. When TNG was playing in syndication in the 1990s, this was the episode that seemed to be shown the most frequently. I recall seeing it many times while flipping through channels back then. In the introductory sequence in that teaser, the brief mention of the Phylox plague on Core Corelli 5 that was mentioned there, Captain's log, is easily overlooked, as I can attest to from my first time watching the episode, despite it being a key plot point later. I think it's almost a wasted opportunity to call back to a previous episode, such as the Galorndon Core incident, or something similar. After all, they did mention the primitive culture on Mintaka 3 later in the episode. So seems like they could have done something there as well, instead of just making up something new that we don't even see. Once you know the twist near the end of the episode, you can rewatch it with the knowledge that, Haro is the imposter, and see that it's almost obvious that she's intently observing what the others are doing throughout the episode. So I think it's great acting by the actress there to not make it so obvious if you don't know that she's the imposter, but later on, if you watch it a second or third time, you can definitely see it then. So kudos to her on that. As you all know, I am a fan of Ron Jones's music in the show, of course, and I would be remiss if I didn't mention that the song playing during Picard and Dr. Crusher's little dance is known on the Ron Jones Project album as "I Only Gag When You're Near."
Naughty.
As for the memorable quote of the episode, well, Melissa kind of took it, but that's all right. I have plenty others. It's kind of an odd one, but what can I say? It's the one that is stuck in my brain all this time, and that is when Thal says, "To forestall suspicion, you were very quick to volunteer."
I also liked it when he said, you probably half of your words mean fighter, and the other guy was like, all your words mean surrender or something like that. I was like, oh, these guys know how to fight. Good arguments. Allison Leach Hyde is here. What's up, Allison? What do you think of this one?
I wasn't looking forward to this in the rewatch. I usually, it's not one of my favorites. It's better than I remember, so that's cool. It was entertaining to watch. I really liked all the interplay we got of our cast, because we had so many scenes with Riker and Troy and Worf and everyone like, is the captain okay? So I really liked that we got to see them be a crew together and not just like interacting during missions. Like this ends up kind of being a mission, but so I really liked that. I love the scene of the clone Picard and Beverly's date. It's one of my favorites because Beverly is just trying to figure out what's going on. And she has the most beautiful draped top on that is so beautiful on screen sitting down. So, she's just gorgeous in this. And you can just see all of her emotions on her face going, what are we doing here? And then, and Clone Picard's so mean, like, okay, you don't want to do this? Let's dance. Okay, then let's kiss. And no, you're right. We shouldn't do this. Get out. I'm like, this is the worst date ever. And so at the end, when Riker and Beverly are teasing Picard, I'm like, so deserved. You weren't here for why it was deserved, but that the cherry on the top of the episode, I'd have to say for that for me. So.
Oh, you're on mute.
That's terrible. That's also known as when you wake up the next day and you're like, I'm mad at you for what you did in my dream. That's the same energy right there. We've all done it. Faith Howell, what is up, Faith? What do you think of this one?
So, middle of the road kind of episode for me too. I did think the stated moral of the story about captivity kind of missed for me, but I did think it was an interesting commentary on trust, both for how, initially the crew takes imposter Picard's oddities as just, an average day. Sometimes weird stuff happens. It's fine. And they'll follow along to a point. And then, they started to sort of team up and discuss behind the scenes, and they relied on each other and they trusted each other's intuition on how he wasn't really reacting correctly. But also I thought it was interesting that the aliens put their plant in a Starfleet uniform because innately the two Starfleet officers would, even though she's a cadet, would trust each other because they're on the same team. So I thought that was interesting as well. Though I have to say, how do we even trust her to begin with? What Bolian have you ever seen with that much hair? I mean, that was obvious from the get-go. So I'm going to pass the torch.
I was going to say, she's got a lot of hair.
Well, wasn't that only the second Bolian we had seen?
Mm-hmm.
So at that point, maybe we just think that the ladies have hair and the dudes played by Michael Berryman don't. Maybe.
With a wicked center part.
Yep. Everybody, that was Mai live in Tokyo. What is up, Mai? What'd you think of this one?
Let me see. I'm gonna try and I can't say it nicely. I've
How
always
dare
found this
you.
episode to be boring, to be honest. I mean, one thing I've noticed this time, after the changes that I've experienced in the past decade, is it must have been a very hot filming day. Every woman knows you do not pat finishing powder on a sweaty foundation covered face. You get blotches like Data has on his face there. And the fake cadet has around her facial additions. And you certainly dab a wet tissue on your lips to get rid of any foundation that gets on there, kind of like Data has here. You can see all of this on Data. There must have been a severe lack of nominees, because even though this episode was nominated for an Emmy for Outstanding Achievement in Makeup, the shockingly bad makeup on Data and the cadet make this a very bad makeup day, I would say. And that scene with Crusher and Picard doing test tube shots as they had faux sushi. Picard is a straight up tease. Man, that was bad. Bad date, yeah, but what a tease. Holy cow. But the more poignant parts of this episode were also very triggering. In rapid succession, Picard says kidnapping is a moral assault. Imprisonment is an injury regardless of how you justify it. And now that you've had a taste of captivity, perhaps you'll reconsider the morality of inflicting it on others. If that's not triggering, given what Hamas has done to Israel for 184 days now, I don't know what is. Anyway, sort of a nothing episode for me, I gotta say.
Man, I'm going to be battling you guys in Things Left Unsaid, because I love this episode, I swear. Thanks very much, Mai, live in Tokyo. All right, Dr. Muhammad Noor, why did you love this episode very, very much?
It was okay. There are two things that struck me about it. I'm not going to go into the overall assessment. It was okay. One, actually, I remember from first watch. It's when the big guy, the Nazca looking guy, takes a bite of that thing. He's like, poison. I was like, you just know from like the taste of it, but it's not like, you know, like some people eat Brussels sprouts and say poison. It's not actually poison. So it was interesting that he's just like, I know this is poison. Like, okay. Nobody questioned it. Everybody just moved on. Like, okay, that's just there. But I remember that from first watch too. The other thing that struck me was why the Picard copy wasn't perfect. This comes back to the ever-present question about like transporters too. If something is an absolute replicate down to the atomic level, shouldn't it basically have just been like another Picard? Basically the same as like if Picard had transported someplace. I mean, unless you invoke a soul or something like that. I was puzzled why it was that good, but not perfect. So, I don't know. I don't know the answer. But I mean, again, the same thing happens for transports. I still think they're killing machines. So there. That's it for me.
Interesting. That's a good point. Thanks very much, Dr. Muhammad Noor. All right, Carrie Schwent, your thoughts on this one? Top 10 episode? What do you think?
I very much enjoy this one. Patrick Stewart really gets to stretch his muscles, you know, playing two different versions of himself. I very, very much enjoy it, and I did some looking into it as my usual research, and the wardrobe on the very large dude, who honestly looks like a combination of a Nautican and a Wookiee with that hair. A little bit of a Wookiee. But his wardrobe was modified and reused and given to Morn on DS9, which I think is very well reused of a very excellent wardrobe. And speaking of wardrobe, the reaction shot of Worf when the fake Picard switches to what he's supposed to look like, that reaction shot was a reuse from an earlier in the season episode, and you can tell because the uniform is all baggy, and then the next shot is all smooth and straight again. And yep. And the food look like slices of the canned cranberries you see at Thanksgiving, but just a little paler.
Yeah, baggy and smooth.
No, I'm talking about Worf. There's a reaction shot of Worf. That one's even baggier. Now, personally, I do not enjoy the canned cranberries at Thanksgiving, but that's what those little hockey pucks look like, was cranberries. And for the poetry this week, I went into the head of Beverly and what she would say if she went immediately to her best friend's cabin. Said, "Okay, this is what happened. A lovely dinner. A slow dance ends with a kiss. A sudden ending." There you have it.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Carrie Schwent, aka Crafty Bear. What luck, everybody. Gregory Kenzo slides in safe. No, there's no time reference there, but thank you very much for hopping in for us, Greg Kenzo. What did you think of this particular episode?
I like this one. I want to say sorry to everybody for being late. I saw my bed looking really comfortable, and then I was like, "Hey, I'm just gonna lay down for a second," and then boom, I'm 30 minutes late. Yeah. This was a good episode. Some parts. There were. I don't know what the consensus was before this. I might be like talking. I might be talking out of turn here, but yeah, I think this was decent. It gave me, I think, Invasion of the Body Snatcher vibes. Picard, even though like all of his actions seem like you would like that out of him, people are like, "Oh, why is Picard so like angry all the time?" And all the other episodes, when he's finally jolly, you're like, "Okay, this isn't, I don't like that. Stop that." I thought this was, this was pretty obvious. It was commenting on authority and the trust inherent in that. Right away, it felt like Picard, the Bolian, and the other two, that felt like a microcosm of the Federation. It was like, okay, here you have two species that don't get along, and then you have a captain and his officer. So yeah, I felt like it just felt exactly like they were like rats in a maze, yeah. And they say that later, and I was like, okay, well, thank you for saying that. But yeah, so this was good.
Mm-hmm.
I know
Greg.
I couldn't like. It doesn't sound heartfelt, but yeah, it's like I know there's better episodes of TNGs, so I'm excited for that.
Greg, would you believe that before you showed up, everybody crapped on this episode so rudely, except for Carrie? She's legit, but that was very hurtful. By the way, here's the canned cranberry thing. I thought it looked like one of those old soaps. Remember how when you go visit somebody's house or grandma's house and they would have like that soap?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it looks a little bit like a urinal cake.
Urinal cakes, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not cake, believe me. All right, everybody. We got
just in time. Perfect.
We don't want to know.
We got to get out of here.
We don't want to know that.
Jake's final take will be mailed to everybody separately. So everybody in the comments below, leave us your postage and like a self. No, you can't do that on
self-addressed stamped envelope.
Yeah, you can't do that. Just the address in the comments. Thanks. All right. Greg Kenzo, thank you very much. Carrie, Mohammed, Mai, Faith, Allison, Chris, Jason, Melissa, for myself, for Sirach Lofton, watching an amazing basketball game. His daughter is hopefully winning for the championship. For Mr. Aaron Eisenberg, thank you all very much for hanging out with us. We will see you next time. And until then, always remember the 7th rule.